I'd like to introduce Maddie Lou Barink. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Sorry, it's the dyslexia. From Shelter. So here you go. Welcome.
No worries. It's Barink, but I don't mind. Yeah, it's a strange last name for people sometimes. Hi, everybody. I was just sort of reeling from your story there, Gary. I'm here to sort of tell you about my own experience and what I'm up to in Shelter Scotland. So, yeah, I've just got a few notes here, so I'll just be reading from that. But so I'm not being rude. I'm just looking at the screen. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's been harrowing to hear that the first two people that spoke already have some lived experience of homelessness, and homelessness and home has been a big part of my life as well. It's been a leading thread in my life, and before I got my job as a community organizer in Living Rent, and then later in Shelter Scotland, I was homeless in Amsterdam as well. I was about to be truly on the streets basically a month before I got this the job, and I left for Scotland. And the home you see me in now is really the first home I've ever been in that I felt safe in, having been in a domestically violent situation before. And that is something that really, like, it's been my whole life that I've seen housing deteriorate around me, from Amsterdam being a place with so much social housing to being a place where more people rent privately than any other kind of form of tenancy in Amsterdam, and that has just been really heartbreaking, because it's meant that so many people who can't afford to live in the city have been moved out, which is a similar dynamic that we see in Edinburgh. I think all of us here are well aware that the home is the base for building our lives, and that everything else seems to run from that, especially if you have multiple complex needs or any kind of problem with mental health. It is hard to get yourself up and going again if you don't have a home. And women who suffer domestic abuse, after they've been taken out of that situation, they're often put in temporary accommodation situations where they don't have the space to recover from their trauma. And basically every day that a woman who's been abused is waiting for housing, permanent housing, and rebuilding their lives again, is just one day too long, in my opinion. But it's not just that. In Shelter, we also have so many stories of street homelessness, and I was just sifting through them all afternoon to just pick which one I would tell you. And I decided that I would tell you about somebody whose name is Derek, is not his real name, but he was found self-harming on North Bridge. And between our peers, who are people with lived experience of homelessness, interacting with him, and Street Work interacting with him, there were two organizations trying to get him to appeal to the council for a homelessness application. But he was really unwilling to work with us, because he had done that before, and basically had been told that they didn't have any place to accommodate him because his needs were too complex. He had been to prison. He has multiple complex problems, and basically they were saying they have absolutely no accommodation where he would be safe, or that others would be safeguarded from maybe having to deal with him. And this is a problem that we see quite a lot. We've been working in Shelter with some community and Avocard to sort of get more, see what we can do about getting better arrangements for people who are coming out of prison, or who are dealing with multiple really big problems, basically, in housing. The heart of the problem is that Edinburgh City Council have admitted to us that they don't have the capacity there's not enough temporary accommodation, and there's not enough permanent accommodation to move the people in temporary accommodation to. The average amount of people who apply to a 1-bedroom house on Edindex is about 600 anytime one comes up, which gives you a bit of a scale of the problem of people who are waiting for a home, let alone for other kinds of housing. So what we're seeing is we have so many people on the waiting list. We are seeing that the council have no temporary accommodation readily available and no permanent accommodation to move people out. We're seeing more and more evidence of gatekeeping, which is when the council withholds accommodating somebody, even though they are presenting as homeless, and they are, and thus they are not fulfilling their duties. And just to sort of, put that in perspective, people have a right to that. So that is the council violating their rights. But the problem is because they don't have accommodation. They don't, no court can really hold them accountable for it either. So what we are trying to build, what I'm trying to build as a community organizer in Edinburgh, is a movement that can really create the housing change we need. And every one of us in this room have some kind of experience and have some kind of knowledge to bring to that. And what I would really like to see is for us to all come together and really think about what the solutions are. We know that we need more social housing or public housing at the heart of this solution in Edinburgh. We need to have something that can compete with the overwhelming market forces that drive housing up in our city. And we need to really stand strong and all have one united voice on what we want the city to look like. I want that plan to be ambitious. I want it to be, I want social housing to mean something new in Scotland, where we can compare it more to Austria and other continental cities that do a great job providing high quality social housing that also provides the support that people need and the basis for a home that people can make. If you want to join us to do that more, my next meeting with our group of housing rights defenders is on Monday, the 26th of April from 5:30 to 7:30. And you can sign up for it in Eventbrite. I'll put it in the chat, and I would love to see you there. And I'll give somebody else a chance now, sorry.
Great, thank you so much. Honestly, I've got a lot of respect for what Shelter do, and it's really lovely to hear how passionate you are. And it's also, it's sad to think that there's 600 people applying for a 1-bedroom home on Edindex. It's honestly just, yeah.